In Martin's museum, there were hundreds of displays of art, all highlighting the natural elegance and beauty of the human. Human portraits of all races and realistic sculptures depicting the human body guarded every corner and wall of his museum. It was impossible to escape the watchful gaze of the human eye within the confinements of the museum. Outside of the museum, signs advertising the museum's lifelike displays and free admission usually attracted about 200 to 300 people a day. Martin was a simple person to understand. He hated people, but he loved the way they looked. He loved how people walked and even the glimmer of their hair, but hated them once they opened their mouths. It was quite obvious that Martin had spent his whole life focusing on improving his museum, as he had no close friends or spouse. Martin's one friend was his German Shepherd, although he had recently taken an annoyance to his loyal dog too. Several days passed as Martin noticed the absence of the young lady from his museum. Perhaps he had scared her away with his unfriendly reply, or she had simply lost interest in his museum. Whatever the case, he strangely missed her presence, and even the way she didn't follow the strict rules of the museum. This was very unlike Martin, as he usually despised contact with everyone.
Here's your shipment, sir.
Thank you.
As the days passed, he decided to import more shipments of sculptures into his museum to try and lure her back. On the third day after the new shipments came in, the young lady finally came back to the museum. Her blue shirt complemented her brunette hair, and Martin couldn't help but stare in awe at one of God's finest portraits. Try as he must, however, he couldn't summon up the courage to go and talk to her. His internal battle raged within himself. Martin's idea was one of a madman. He devised his malevolent scheme on several scraps of paper that he kept in his office at his museum. Although Martin had never committed a crime before, he felt that the one he was planning to commit was beneficial to his safety. Nonetheless, Martin had already made his decision. As he was finishing up the last touches of his plan, he glimpsed the young lady walking towards his museum through the door. Soon, he thought to himself, he would wait until the young lady was all alone at the museum and then take his chances. It was a rainy, windy Sunday, with few visitors at the museum. As more and more people streamed out, the young lady was the last one remaining. Martin smiled to himself in wicked delight. Martin walked slowly to the toolbox that he had kept for museum maintenance, with an insidious expression on his face. His time had finally come. As Martin scoured the toolbox looking for the right tool, he thought to himself decisively. The tool, he thought, had to be elegant but simple, just like the girl that he so longed for. Martin was about to give up looking for the right tool when his eye caught the special one. The hammer, which was a simple and revolutionary device but was perfect. He grabbed it and grinned maliciously.
Freeze!
Officers, I've done nothing wrong.
As Martin glimpsed his familiar script and drawings etched onto the paper he had written earlier in the policeman's back pocket, he suddenly remembered his fatal error. When he was devising his plan, he had forgotten to close the door. Oh, how such small mistakes, like leaving the door open on a windy day, can dramatically alter the course of events. The lady smiled at Martin mockingly, triumphant in the assurance of her safety. As Martin was led away, he glanced one last time at the lady. He smiled back methodically at her, knowing that this was the last time he would ever see her.